In chapter 5, you are going to be introduced to the concept of groups. And we may not always realize how important groups are in our lives, but they are. Groups are part of much of our daily activity. If you live with people, whether that's a roommate or your family, you wake up in the morning, you're interacting with people. Maybe you go to work, most of us are interacting with people. Maybe you go to a class or two in the afternoon or vice versa. Again, you're interacting with people. You go to a store, you go to a Starbucks, you're interacting with people. It almost seems that we are around people for most of our day than we are not around people. And for some of us, we may like that. And for others of us, maybe not quite as much. But the fact is that groups are important parts of our lives. You'll be introduced to the idea of primary groups and secondary groups. And this is an excellent way to illustrate how the size of a group and the actors, the players within a group, can influence the way that we interact with those others. For example, primary group tends to be small, relatively small. It tends to be a group in which we care deeply for the people in that group. They accept us for who we are. They know our flaws, and they still love us. They still like us. We tend to have a bond with these people. We enjoy being part of the group. We have a sense of belonging. For a lot of people, family is a primary group, not all, but for a lot of people, family is a primary group. A group of friends, even if it's only a couple, two, three friends that are close, that's a primary group. Secondary groups, on the other hand, are typically larger, no emotional bonds, no deep sense of caring. We typically are interacting with people in a secondary group because we need to get something done. We're trying to accomplish a task or reach a goal. So you think about going to a class, that's a secondary group. Why? You are trying to complete a particular course so you can get units in a particular area, so it goes toward your graduation. Go to work, for most people, again, another secondary group, because you're there to achieve a goal. You want to earn some money. You're not there necessarily because you like everybody there. In fact, you may like no one there at your workplace. Now, primary groups sound like these really great places to spend most of our time, and they are, for the most part. But there's no group that's perfect, right? Primary groups have advantages and disadvantages. Of course, typically, advantages outweigh the disadvantages of being in a primary group. But even if you love your family, for example, I'm guessing there are times when some members of your family just get on your last nerve. Okay? And in a secondary group, maybe you don't like a particular instructor or student who, in your view, is always, trying to show off their knowledge. But that doesn't mean that you don't enjoy interacting with other members of the class. Same thing at work. Maybe you don't like your boss and some of the employees there, but there's likely to be one or two people that you get along with and that you like. Okay, so when we think about primary groups and secondary groups, they both have positives and negatives, and they're both important parts of our lives. In this chapter, you'll also focus on bureaucracies. And as much as many times we do not like dealing with a bureaucracy, whether that's the DMV or the Social Security Office or the Veterans Affairs Office or whatever it might be, and as inefficient as these organizations sometimes seem to be, the reality is without the formalized hierarchical way that they are organized, things would be a lot worse. Okay, so that's chapter 5.